What's going on, guys? It's Blake&VishSports. Sports. We're back. We're streaming quite a few times this week because I have spring break and Blake's pretty free on the evenings, so we're streaming a little bit more. Today, we thought we would keep it a little chill. We would talk about everybody's favorite football team, the Chicago Bears, talk about why they got Andy Dalton, why they got rid of Kyle Fuller, and why that's a great acquisition for the Broncos, and then just take your questions. I know in our last couple of streams, there's been a lot of questions that we haven't been able to answer. And so we're going to try to get to them today. And I know I tweeted it out, and there were two questions asked in reply to the tweet. Unfortunately, we won't get to those two questions today. We're not going to rank the NFC West today because that's a future topic we will do post-draft and everything, just after rosters are finalized out a little bit. And then the NBA trade deadline, we plan to do that topic with Nolan, who unfortunately who was supposed to be on the stream, and he could unfortunately not make it today. So that's why we're not going to do that today, but we will cover that topic in a future video. So Blake, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Vish. Excited to talk about our favorite team, the Chicago Bears. Big day for the Niners, though, with some of the free agents and stuff. I forget what the guy's name is. Kerry Hyder, though, Seahawks. Ooh.
Yeah, with Kerry Hyder, the thing is that I think that while he was a good player for the Niners and what he did for the Niners last year was awesome, I just think that
irreplaceable.
The price was too steep. And it's a guy who's had a ton of success only really playing with Chris Kasarik. And I think Chris Kasarik is the best defensive line coach in the NFL. And I think he can find other diamonds in the rough. He can find another Kerry Hyder. So I'm not too concerned with that. But let's get started with Andy Dalton being the Chicago Bears starter. So just a little background on this topic. I was pretty nervous for a little while. I thought the Bears were going to get Russell Wilson. I thought finally the Chicago Bears were going to have competence at the quarterback position, and I thought that I was going to be pretty upset about that. And instead, they went and made the big move to sign Andy Dalton for 1 year, $10 million. What do you think of the Bears signing Andy Dalton?
I quite frankly just don't understand the direction that they're going right now. Right now they have like a pretty average roster compared to the league. They did make the playoffs last year. Whether Andy Dalton, you could argue he's better than Foles and Trubisky. I'd agree with that, but he's getting paid $10 million. He's not that much better than Foles or Trubisky in my eyes. And they just cut Fuller part to keep him. I don't think their team got that much better from this. And they seem to just be kind of stuck in like a really bad situation where they're not good enough to make the playoffs and like go deep, and they're not bad enough where they're going to get a top 5 pick and get a really good prospect. Now they could still get, probably like a top 10 pick. That's definitely feasible, but I don't think they're going to be able to get themselves in a great position to draft a quarterback next year or maybe the year after. And their defense isn't getting any younger. I don't think their offense is really that great either. Their highest scoring game against a good opponent, so a team that did make the playoffs, was 25 points, and that was against the Packers when the game was over at half. So I really don't think their offense is that much better from this. They're in a weird spot, though. What are your thoughts, though?
Yeah, I'm just bewildered. I think that starting with Nagy and Pace, like you can't really question their moves because they're on their final year of their contract. But I think the McCaskey family is playing with fire by having a coach and GM who are basically not confirmed to be there the very next year because they're basically desperate and they're going to make moves that just don't make sense. And this is a move that just doesn't make sense, but it kind of makes sense given Pace and Nagy. This was the best option they could have gotten at quarterback. I don't hate them signing Andy Dalton. Like, I think Andy Dalton is the best quarterback this team has had the last 3 years.
Probably,
I like his price. $10 million. It's not that bad. I just don't understand the entire direction of the team because at the end of the day, their receiving core, I like Darnell Mooney. Allen Robinson's very, very, very good, but it's not a very good receiving core. Their offensive line is not very good. David Montgomery played well at the end of the year, and we'll see if that continues. And then their defense, it's something that I feel like is going to regress. I know they have their new defensive coordinator who I'm cheering for, the first Indian defensive coordinator in Sean Desai, but when you start to lose players like Kyle Fuller, Kendall's his brother, when you start to lose players like Kyle Fuller, who we will talk about later, your defense is going to automatically get worse. I don't understand the direction of where they're going. I don't understand what their end goal is. I mean, they barely snuck into the playoffs last year, and I don't think they can do the same this year. No. They've got a mid-tier roster with some weird contracts, not a lot of assets, not a great coach, but you're not committed to him, not a great GM, you're not committed to him. And now you have it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. And the other thing
you go ahead.
No, the other thing I was going to say with Dalton is that they knew Dalton would be available last year, and yet they still gave up assets and took Foles and Foles' contract. That makes no sense either because Dalton is better than Foles, and they could have gotten Dalton last year, and now they paid $10 million to get him this year. All these moves just make zero sense.
I think, all right, letting go of Trubisky, completely understandable. You're not going to hear any complaints from me if you're thinking for Bears wins. Like, that makes sense. But if you know your team's going to be a sinking ship this year, why would you not just ride it out with Foles and then just carry that 10 mil over? Like, that's what I don't get. Do they really think that Dalton's going to win them an extra game or two? Like, sweet, you're just going to screw yourself over from an even better pick. They barely would have made the playoffs had there not been an extra seed in, and them getting out to just a ridiculously good start, which was, like, just unheard of, obviously. And even then, like, some crazy wins, like that Falcons game. That was crazy. Lions, the first week, DeAndre Swift drops a touchdown. Now, you could play the other game and say they could have had a few more wins, but at the end of the day, this team is really not that good. And like you said, their defense is not going to get any better, barring just, like, Desai being great or they draft insanely well. Akeem Hicks is getting injured more and more each year. And you could argue the same with Mac. They're not going to get any young. Mac's already in his prime. And why did they not cut Jimmy Graham? If they wanted to save cap, now I know Fuller was going to get paid $20 million this year, and that is a lot for a cornerback. But they have Jimmy Graham on this roster, and he's a top 3 or one of the highest paid tight ends in the league. And he does not offer much besides the occasional red zone target where you got to force feed him because he's not going to create much separation at all. It's perplexing to say the least.
Yeah, and like the thing with you asked all those questions, and I think the answer to that is that they're a poorly owned franchise. Like, I think when people say poorly owned franchise, they always say the Detroit Lions, they always say the Cleveland Browns. The Bears are up there. I mean, to have a coach and GM on the final year of their contract like this is where you make moves that just make no sense. And I just don't understand what they're doing. I don't see a direction like we're going to build a team. We're going to be this team. Khalil Mack is paid like a quarterback. And so as good as Khalil Mack is, you're paying him like a quarterback, which I think has really hurt the development of this team. They haven't drafted particularly well. They've not signed free agents very well. They don't have a great coach or a great scheme. They're just very subpar in all areas, and they've managed to make 2 playoff runs in Nagy's tenure, which in it of itself is like winning a Super Bowl because God only knows how they did it. But I think at some point you just got to tear it all up. And I think this is the year. I think that what they're doing right now is a recipe for disaster because by not tearing it up this year, they're not, when they eventually do have to tear it up, which will be next year when Nagy's eventually gone and Pace is eventually gone, the new head coach is not going to have the resources he would like with the whole thing torn up. If you tore it up this year, then you get 1 year, and next year maybe you have an opportunity to start spending some money and competing. So I don't know what they're doing. I like Andy Dalton. I don't think he's going to be bad for them. I like him more than the average person in the sense that I don't think he's a good quarterback. I think he's a very average one. But I think you can win with Andy Dalton still. So, but you also need, in my opinion, to win with him, you need a stellar running game and a stellar defense, which I'm not sure the Bears are providing here.
No, and just to point this out too, so this whole Russell Wilson thing in the final package that they offered him, I think it was 3 firsts and 2 starters. that would have been insane. And if they would have done that, I mean, dare I say, I don't think they would have. I really don't think that would have been a great trade for them. In all honesty with you, the defense would have gotten a lot worse. I'm pretty sure Fuller was one of the guys in the trade too. Like, they were trying to actively trade him.
Yeah, so with the Russell Wilson thing, two things. Okay, let's analyze the offer. One is I saw this report. I don't know how true it is, but Chris Sims said that what he heard was that the Bears leaked this offer to make as a PR move, basically. They wanted people to think that they were pursuing Russell Wilson heavily and they were unable to get him. And two, I actually think it would be an okay move for the Bears because it would bring some excitement and it will kind of guarantee them the playoffs. Yeah. But from Russell Wilson's perspective, like, if he has problems with the Seahawks offensive line, the Bears weren't going to provide anything better in terms of their offensive line. The Bears they weren't going to win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. And when you give up that many assets, you're hoping to win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. And they would have just been the Seahawks of the Midwest, where Russell Wilson is just carrying you to the playoffs. You're winning maybe one playoff game, you're losing. So it just didn't make sense all around. Their franchise itself doesn't make sense. Like, I can't give you a plausible explanation for how the Chicago Bears could reload on the fly without saying just tear it all up, get rid of Nagy, get rid of Pace, fire everybody, start getting rid of your highly paid players, especially the older ones like the Robert Quinns, the Jimmy Grahams, maybe even Khalil Mack because his value is probably still high, and rebuild the entire thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. It doesn't make sense, but I think we can move on to one of the pieces they did get rid of, who's now on a team that's shaping up to be pretty interesting this year. I know they were last year too. I really liked them. If not for Mr. Locke, I think they could have been a little better. But what are your thoughts on this Kyle Fuller acquisition for the Broncos?
I love it. Kyle Fuller had his best seasons with Vic Fangio, and I still think Vic Fangio is one of the best, if not the best, defensive coaches in the NFL. I think Kyle Fuller has always been like a top 10 to 12 corner in the NFL. It's just never talked about. Good in coverage, good in man, good in zone, really, really good tackler, got a nose for the football. Mm-hmm. He finds ways to take away the football, whether it's forcing fumbles, getting interceptions. He's just a really, really solid player. I think the Denver Broncos have been looking for a corner like Kyle Fuller. AJ Bouye didn't necessarily work out for them. And so I think that Kyle Fuller is a great fit for their defense. He also is one of the most durable cornerbacks in the NFL. Yeah. He started 16 games. I think he started every game of his career. So because of that, he's just a stud. I love this move. I also think the money isn't too bad. 1 year is $9 million, I think, is perfect for a player of his caliber. I think the value is right on. I love the move for the Denver Broncos, and I'm really interested to see how they turn out, because with Cortland Sutton coming back and you have a good offensive line and you have Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler and Noah Fant, you have a potentially exciting offense. And then with Vic Fangio, and then now they got Justin Simmons back. They have Kyle Fuller now. You bring back Von Miller. Bradley Chubb is one more year removed from his ACL. They're shaping up to be a pretty stacked roster on both sides of the ball. And the big question they have is with Drew Lock, which we'll definitely talk about him on another day.
Yeah, so this defense coming in to the start of free agency, right? The really only good corner, starting caliber corner, is Ojemudia, who I'm kind of a fan of him. I've been low-key watching some Broncos a little bit, just like checking him out, and I like Ojemudia. He's fine, and he's going to be their third corner now. They signed Ronald Darby, who started for the football team last year. Then they bring in Fuller, and if you remember this, Vic, I know you do, 2018, Fuller's best year was with Vic Fangio's DC. This defense was going to plan or look like they needed to draft a corner like with their 9th pick. They don't have to do that anymore. They can go best player available. They can go, if they want to go O-line, they can do that. If they want to go, maybe there's a linebacker they like, or beef up the D-line. They have tons of options. Maybe there's a quarterback they're looking for, unless they believe in Drew Lock. We don't know. But whoever it is at quarterback that they have, he will be tall and he will have a strong arm, just like John Elway loves.
I think George Payton will be making the pick this year.
But someone took over for him, unfortunately. But yeah, no, back to their defense. Dude, I think their defense is going to be legit this year. Like, I really, really do. They've pretty much upgraded, or the players have improved at every position. Vic Fangio's got another year of this system. How good do you think their defense can be?
I think if you isolate their secondary by itself, I think it can be a top 5 secondary in the NFL. When you say Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson, who they brought back, and he's a good
really
free safety for them. Yeah, and then you have Kyle Fuller, Ojemudia, and Ronald Darby. I think it can be a top 5 secondary in the NFL, especially with Vic Fangio scheming it up because he has a really good defensive scheme. So that's fantastic. Then you look at their pass rush. I mean, Von Miller is a Hall of Famer, and I still think he's got something left in the tank.
Don't doubt the man.
Right. So you have Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, which is still a good pass rushing duo. And from that standpoint, I just think that the Denver Broncos are going to be right there in terms of their defense. Like, Vic Fangio is a defensive mastermind. I don't think people have given him enough credit throughout his career for how good he's been with defense. I mean, he was the mastermind behind the Niners defense between 2011 to 2014. He then took the Chicago Bears and he made Matt Nagy and Mitchell Trubisky go to the playoffs with one of the defenses that was the most fortuitous in terms of forcing turnovers maybe in NFL history. They were just forcing like 3 turnovers a game. They were unbelievable. And so because of that, I just think that the Denver Broncos are going to have a really good defense. They have a good offensive line. They have receiving weapons that you can be excited about. I mean, again, I don't want to keep turning this into a Drew Lock conversation because the Denver Broncos just, I think, had a silently very good free agency and have silently put together a roster that could be very, very good next year. But it's really going to come down to him.
Dude, another guy, D lineman Shelby Harris. I don't know. This dude just like pops off the screen for me. I was really watching them to like see Jarrell Casey because I wanted the Packers to sign him. And this Shelby Harris dude on their D line is actually a beast. They signed him for a couple more years. So, I mean, when you just look at their roster turnover, like the additions they've gotten, they're getting Fuller, Darby. They have Simmons. They have Jackson. They're getting Von Miller back. Bradley Chubb is another year in. This defense could be special. And I did mention it too, but linebacker. So they have this guy named Jewell and then Alexander Johnson.
AJ Johnson. Yeah. Alexander Johnson.
They hit pretty hard, but they're not the best. If they got like a coverage guy in there, or maybe they did want to go the Micah Parsons route because they blitzed their linebackers a decent amount, it would be interesting. That's all I'll say. It would be interesting.
Yeah, and again, they're a team like Brian Pollock brought up in the comments section. Yeah. They're a team that's been rumored to be in the Watson situation. Now, there's more variables to the Watson situation now, but you look at their team, and by getting Kyle Fuller, which was, I think, they're maybe the only real question mark on their team besides maybe inside linebacker, which I still think Fangio's scheme can adjust to not having the best inside linebackers. They're right there now where they could just trade for Deshaun Watson. They're Super Bowl bound, or they're right there where they could move up and go get a quarterback. Like, the Broncos just opened up so many possibilities because they don't have this clear defined need on their team where if they don't draft this position, they would be screwed because they don't have depth or starting caliber players there.
Yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, we'll talk about the Drew Lock thing in the future. And another thing too is, like people have mentioned, like, this division is loaded. Drew Lock, if they draft a quarterback, if let's say in a perfect world they got like Deshaun Watson, he wouldn't even be the best quarterback in the division. If they drafted a guy like top 3, he would probably be the 3rd best quarterback in the division.
If they got Watson, this would be the greatest quarterback division of all time.
Probably.
There's already 3 top 15 quarterbacks in their division with Carr, Herbert, and obviously Mahomes. And so even
and Chad,
they're kind of in the same position that the Niners are, but it's exacerbated by a little bit more because they don't have the same level of roster, and Locke is definitely not as good as Jimmy G, though he's more gifted. They're in the same situation where, like, they could get an average quarterback, but their average quarterback would still be the 4th best quarterback in their division the other three guys are above average.
Crazy. It is crazy. And then one other thing too, before we move off the Broncos. So I like Judy a lot. I really liked him coming into the draft. I had him over. I thought he'd be better than CeeDee Lamb. Looking like that's not going to happen. I still think he has potential. I really do. He gets open. He's fast. He's kind of a smaller dude, which is concerning, but his route running's still good. His biggest issue is drops, right? And I think that's something he can, you can learn to catch the ball better or get better at that. The issue for most people is
concentration.
Yeah. And then their other receivers are really good too. I know me and you have talked about this guy, but Tim Patrick, I love this guy. This guy's he's going to be good. Tim Patrick's going to be really good.
He's already good.
Yeah. And
he's like the Broncos version of Rashard Higgins.
He really is. Yeah. That's like the perfect example, honestly. Doesn't really get talked about enough. Does a really good job. And then KJ Hamler, too, is not like – if he's your fourth receiver, you're doing something right. They're getting Sutton back. I like Noah Fant, too. Noah Fant, this offense has so much potential.
Yeah, in regards to Judy, do I think Judy's going to be a bust? No way. I don't even think you can look at him as a bust right now. I think the big question with Judy is, will he ever live up to the lofty top 15 status? And because of the other receivers taken behind him, I'm going to say no, because I don't think there's any – I don't look at any path where Jerry Jeudy is better than CeeDee Lamb, better than Justin Jefferson, or better than Brandon Ayuk. And I would even throw Chase Claypool in there because they're all more physically gifted than him. Like, the thing with Jerry Jeudy is, yeah, he's a phenomenal route runner, but he has inconsistent hands. He kind of T-Rexes balls over the middle. He's a little slight, and he's not the most physical player, where he does shy away from contact a decent amount. And the final thing is he's not the best after the catch in terms of you can just throw Jerry Jeudy a quick screen and he's going to go for an 80-yard touchdown. And so because of that, I don't think you can look at Jerry Jeudy as a bust, but will he ever live up to who he was drafted in front of? Yeah. I'm going to go out on a limb and just say no right now. But honestly, it's impossible to tell at the moment. So I'm like contradicting myself, but at the same time, I'm going to say no.
Yeah, he still had 850 yards. I think he's getting overshadowed a little bit because CeeDee Lamb looked like a star. Jefferson, a star. Claypool, really good. Brandon Ayuk, your Niner, amazing. So it's kind of hard when you're going to compare them against the rest, and he doesn't stack up the best in his first year. Now, that's not to say he can't bounce back, but yeah, like you said, he is a little bit smaller, and you're not going to throw him a bubble screen and he's just going to juke three dudes out or stiff arm a guy to the ground. He needs space to operate, and maybe without Locke, he will get better. That's what I'm kind of banking on. But it's too tough to tell.
I will guarantee this though. I think he's going to have a really good season next year. I don't think he's going to be better than those four I named, but that doesn't mean he can still be really good, because I think he will have a really good season next year, because I think Cortland Sutton coming back is going to do wonders for him. I look at him kind of like the same way I look at Calvin Ridley, who's actually one of the more under talked about receivers in the NFL, because he's just really solid and really good. And I think Calvin Ridley is the perfect number 2 to Julio Jones, and I look at Jerry Jeudy as the perfect number 2 to Cortland Sutton similarly.
Totally agree.
So, guys, we're just ready to take some questions. We're ready to answer whatever you want us to answer. If you got any questions, throw it our way. I saw a question about Todd Gurley and the 49ers, so let's talk about that. Do you guys think Todd Gurley for cheap would be a good addition to our running back room for the 49ers?
I can go first. I think he would be a great addition to a lot of backfields. I don't think the Niners are one. I just don't see it with the Niners. I feel like they need a more speed. His vision is still insanely good. Still a really good red zone back. But I just cannot see him being that great. Not to mention he's very, very fragile, just due to how his knee is degenerative. That's an issue. I think he would be a great addition as a third running back for most teams, but I just don't see it with the Niners. What are your thoughts on this, Fish?
Yeah, I don't love it. I think their running back room is already good. They're looking for one more guy, and I don't think he's the type of guy you're looking for. You brought up the big thing. The Niners like fast, explosive running backs. Like even
Yeah.
Jeff Wilson, for being the slowest of the guys, I think he's still a 4.45
Yeah.
guy, and he's still
Yeah.
pretty explosive. So Todd Gurley doesn't bring the explosion anymore. He's like you said, his vision is still very good. He's still very good in the red zone. But the Niners have enough of firepower, I think, to run in the red zone. They're looking for home run hitters. Look at Raheem Mostert. Look at Matt Breida. Kevin Coleman was supposed to be of the same ilk, and he didn't turn out to be that. He kind of lost his explosion. Jerick
Yeah.
McKinnon is another guy who runs 4.3, 4.35, 4.38, something like that. So because of that, I don't think Todd Gurley would be a good addition to this team. I'm actually still a Todd Gurley fan. I was a big fan of him when he was like the best running back in the NFL, and he looked so special. I wish he would read his knees would be given some new health so he could come back and be that special player again. But for the Niners, I think Todd Gurley is not a good fit.
And I think here's the other thing too, right? He's gonna get like probably around a vet minimum, which is still a lot more than if you threw just a draft pick at like a 5th or a 6th rounder. Like those guys they'd probably turn out to be better or more productive than Todd Gurley, and you'd have them for 4 years. I don't know why you wouldn't go with like someone out of like a smaller school in the 5th or 6th round, because you have a ton of late picks. I think that would be like the cost benefit analysis. Like that would just seem like the best idea or a better idea.
Yeah, 100% agree. All the Niners really need is they have a type. There's a reason the Shanahan run game works with all these different backs. They just need a guy who can see it and he can hit the hole and he can hit it fast and explosive. And Todd Gurley is not hitting the hole fast and explosive anymore.
Yeah.
But Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, those guys are. And so for that reason, I don't think he's a good fit.
Definitely.
So Jamal asked a question about Chase Claypool. Is Claypool going to take another leap this year? I saw a graphic about him taking a DK Metcalf-like jump this year. Their rookie numbers are very similar.
This is interesting, and I don't think it hinges on Claypool at all. What type of quarterback's Big Ben going to be? Is he going to be willing to take the ball down the field like Claypool's best at? Or is he going to do what he did with Juju last year a lot at the end to say, all right, you're getting like 12 targets where you're going to get 60 yards, but you're getting 12 targets and just throw it short a lot. And I think that's kind of down to the OC a little bit. Also, their line not being good, and they couldn't run the ball at all. It was more of a product of their offense than Claypool not being good, because I think Claypool's special. The dude had like 4 touchdowns against the Eagles. He's a freak of an athlete, and he looks insane. I think it just hinges on Big Ben and like his willingness to actually go down the field.
Yep, I 100% agree with that. I still think he's going to take a leap next year, no doubt about it. And I think that he's going to take a leap because I think Hugh Jackson's an upgrade from Randy Fichtner for sure. I think Randy Fichtner is one of the worst offensive coordinators in the NFL. He has no idea how to scheme up a run game. I don't know how much of their pass game was because Big Ben wanted it to be that way, but it was a poorly schemed up pass game. So I think that's going to make a big difference. But you hit the nail on the head. Is Big Ben Roethlisberger going to be willing to throw the ball down the field? Because right now, that aspect of Chase Claypool's ability is being underutilized. Like, he's a truck after the catch. You can't stop him. He's so big, so fast, and he's so willing to run people over. He actually just dominates. And so the big thing is you're underutilizing his ability to just beat people with physical ability, and you just throw it down the field and he goes and gets it. So I don't think he's DK Metcalf. I think that one is a little bit of a stretch because I think DK Metcalf is the freakiest of freaks. But this guy is still a freak. I think he could be a top 15 type receiver next year. And I think that Big Ben's willingness more than ability, because I think he can still throw it down the field. He's just not willing to do so. Is gonna basically define how good his stats are.
I totally agree with the last point too. Like, when you watch the second half of that Browns-Steelers game, the dude ended with over 500 yards. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say he was like picking apart the 85 Bears or anything, or he was going against the Legion of Boom, because their secondary is not the best, but he was still like going down the field a decent amount. I think he can do it to an extent. I don't think he can do it every play, but I still think if that O-line gives him time, like he will push the ball down the field. And This dude will throw contested catches, like without a doubt. If you've seen him and Antonio Brown play, if you've seen him throw the ball to Santonio Holmes, any of their other great receivers they've had, he'll put it in tight windows. Like, that is not an issue for Big Ben at all.
Yeah, and it's just going to be 1 year removed from the Tommy John. He is so old, and I think that's the big question. Because I don't have any questions with Chase Claypool. I really don't.
None at all.
I do have questions when people have him as a top 3 receiver in this class, and maybe I'm a little biased, but I comfortably have Jefferson, Lamb, and Ayuk as the 3 best from this class so far. But otherwise, I don't really have a question about him on the field because this is a baller. This is an absolute baller.
Definitely.
So do you see any questions you want to answer here, Blake? We can keep going. Hey, guys, if you have any questions, just put them in here. We're willing to answer anything you got. It can be about football, basketball, about us, anything.
There was this, and I thought this was interesting. Did you want to start with the Niners first? Because I think their draft strategies had to have changed a lot over the last few days.
Yeah, so this is just Eddie, if you can elaborate, is this just logic aside who we would like the 49ers and Packers to draft this season? Because logic aside, I'm still a big Justin Fields guy. That's who I would like the 49ers to draft still. I think he's going to go in the top 8 picks. I think they're going to have to go up and get him. But for me, that's what I would like. I really like Justin Fields. I would like them to go up and get him.
I mean, I think he'll be top 5, to be honest with you. I see one of Broncos or
Panthers
trading up. Here's the thing, too. I don't think the Falcons are going to take him. With the way the Falcons restructured Matt Ryan, unless they just want to eat a bunch of dead cap in a couple years, which I don't know how they would do that, I really do not think they would. So they would have to trade into the top 5 in my eyes. I think 5 with the Bengals, they could definitely be a team to trade down because they already have their quarterback. And if they want more assets to get O-line help or pretty much any defensive position, like their game 5 would be an interesting spot for the Niners to trade up with. I really think Niners are going to go interior line. So they got Williams. Actually, they could go with McGlinchey. I don't know if he's thinking of getting replaced. With the way Grant Cohn talks, sounds like it's a foregone conclusion, but
no, I don't think they'll replace him. In my opinion, Grant's a little extra harsh on McGlinchey. I don't think they'll replace him. And I don't think they'll value taking a guard within the top 12 picks. No way. Wow. First of all, I don't think unless you're drafting Big Q, you take a guard within the first 12 picks. Big Q was generational, but a guard is not a premium position. So there's no way, and I think there's no way they would, in my personal opinion. Maybe center because this offense values the center, but they just got Alex Mack. So I think that their offensive line is going to pretty much stay as is other than adding a mid-round guy as competition for their offensive line room.
Okay. What about a guy who could play both, though? Like Rashawn Slater. Now, I don't know.
So where does he fit, though? Where does he fit? Like, Rashawn Slater, to me, is 100% worth the 12th pick in the draft, and he's 100% a tackle, not a guard. But where does he fit? Because the thing with McGlinchey is that he's a perfect fit as a run blocker for this offense. That's the problem. Yeah. And that's why they like him so much. Like, he's always an average pass blocker. He's always going to be an average pass blocker. But he's an exceptional run blocker within this offense. They prefer run blocking offensive linemen in general. And so, because of that, I just think that there's no way they'll move off of him and draft Rashawn Slater. And if Rashawn Slater is there and they do draft him, then they have to trade Mike McGlinchey anyway.
Interesting. Well, that's what I thought they would do. Vish is more informed with the Niners than I am. Even are their guards fine?
Laken Tomlinson's a solid starter. I think the only question you can ask is he's going to be a free agent after in 2022. Yeah. Same thing with Daniel Brunskill, who's also, I think when you have him just play one position, he's okay. He's not bad. Okay. He's okay. They drafted Colton McKivitz last year, who didn't have a very strong rookie season, but you spent a 5th round pick on him. I just think there's been enough assets put into this offensive line that they wouldn't go at number 12 and
Fair
take
enough.
a guy.
Fair enough.
To me, the way their moves have geared up, and I could end up being totally wrong. It feels like they're trying to close all their holes so they can go get up to the top of this draft and take a quarterback or make a move for Deshaun Watson. Because right now, I don't see a clear position of need that they should be taking at 12.
Yeah, there's not one position where you're like, we're completely screwed here. I'd still say secondary because most of the guys are on 1-year deals. Like, you can still bulk up and like have a little assurance for the future, but it's not like a pressing need where if they go into the season without drafting a corner in the first round or 2 rounds, like, they're completely screwed. So interesting.
Yeah,
I guess
I 100% agree with that. I think within the first 3 rounds, they need to go deep. They need to address at least their secondary. Within the first 4 rounds, I would say at least twice, whether it's corner or corner safety, just to get more depth and more young talent in there, because so many of the guys could be gone when the cap shoots back up next year.
Definitely. And I guess we can move this to the Packers now. Vish, as a Niners fan, who do you want the Packers to not draft because you don't want to see us do well?
No, I actually do want to see the Packers draft this guy so badly. And that's my favorite player in the draft. I want the Green Bay Packers to draft Kadarius Toney so badly. I think Kadarius Toney would change their offense. I think he's what the doctor ordered for them. I think they need an explosive playmaker in their offense in some capacity. They need somebody else other than Aaron Jones that's electric with the ball in his hands, and that's who Kadarius Toney is. I think he'll open up the creativity of their offense a lot more. It feels like their offense is so precision-based, and it feels like everything needs to be so precise, whether it's Aaron Rodgers with his pre-snap checks, whether it's his throwing to Devontae Adams, whether it's Matt LaFleur's play calling and scheming up. Everything needs to be precise because outside of Aaron Jones, they have nobody where you just give him the ball and, okay, the play is not working, but he's going to just get you an 80-yard touchdown because he's just that explosive. Like, so they don't have that. And Toney would be exactly that for them. He would help them in the screen game. He would help them in the push pass game. He would help them in every capacity. That would be their version of Deebo Samuel. I really want them to get Kadarius Toney.
See, it feels like a luxury to pick him in the first round. Now, I agree with you. He would, like we talked about it with Curtis Samuel too, like he would be a guy that you just get him the ball as much as you can and he'll make something out of nothing. And right now, the Packers only guy to do that is Aaron Jones. And you need more than one guy to do that if you want to be a high-octane offense or that next level, which we've discussed. But I just think there's way, way, way too many holes on this defense that you would address a second receiver first, especially considering just the sheer amount of talent at the receiver position, whether that's like a low bargain bin free agency or just second round or third round receivers that people are projected to go. I would say the biggest need, and I don't even think this is like that pressing, but if they got another interior D lineman, this defense would be awesome. Like, all right, right now their linebackers aren't the best, but they are young. Like, they're inside linebackers. They're young and they're good enough, right? We already know they have Preston Smith, Gary, Darius, like edge is set. Kenny Clark's a beast. Next to him is Kingsley Keke, Dean Lowry, and Tyler Lancaster. And they just really don't get the job done. No better way to put it. Secondary, I wouldn't be opposed, right? Like, if they went another corner, Kevin King's back. Yay, I'm not that disappointed in that for how he only got $6 million for a year. That's cool with me. But if they did want to draft like an outside guy, or maybe even a slot corner, because Shannon Sullivan's okay, but he's not the best. But for me, interior D-line to bulk up the run defense, because I don't know, man. I can't see another Packers playoff game where we're not getting enough interior pressure or just getting ran all over.
Yeah, I agree. If we're talking solely need, I think their interior defensive line, yeah, that's been a need for the last 2 years because they just get pushed around. They get pushed around inside. They get dominated inside. They don't have big people like Dean Lowry, Kingsley Keke, like Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark's massive, but you just need massive human beings, even if they aren't the best players. They need more size. So I 100% agree, though. I haven't really looked into this defensive tackle class too deep, so I don't know the names really too well.
Yeah.
I'll get into that pretty soon. Um, the other position is you brought up is corner, and I've started watching these corners. I don't know if you'll be available when the Packers pick, but I could see J.C. Horn and the Green Bay Packers like
Yeah.
that. That to me is a Green Bay Packers pick. I think J.C. Horn is a stud. I think he should go a lot higher than when the Packers pick, but I would love to see that. Like Kadarius Toney, J.C. Horn, or if you draft some sort of inside linebacker that's very, very explosive, or just a big mammoth human being inside. There's a lot of ways the Packers could go where I think they would just have it would be a successful draft if they picked one of those positions in the first round.
Definitely. And one guy, he went to Iowa, so I want him. Davion Nixon. He's an interior D lineman. He's just a big dude at the end of the day. Pretty solid, though. I'd be cool with him. I know there's a guy from Bama who's supposed to be really good, but yeah, for the most part, there's not like that high-end level interior D-line talent, which is not the best for us. But yeah, J.C. Horn, I haven't watched much, but from what I've read, tell me if I'm wrong here, he's like a pretty good like press corner, man-on-man corner. It's really
physical,
athletic,
big-time competitor. Yeah, he's got Green Bay Packers written all over him because I think one of the best things about Jair Alexander is that he's one of the more fluid athletes in the NFL, but he's just a big time competitor.
Mm-hmm.
Jair Alexander is willing to get into people's face, press, and compete. And J.C. Horn, he's just a competitor. I like J.C. Horn a lot.
So from the way you've described him, he sounds like basically like a upgraded Kevin King type of prospect in college.
I think he's a little more physically gifted than Kevin King, and two, I think Kevin King's a little soft. Or not soft. Soft isn't the right word. I think Kevin King is can be a little bit lackadaisical at times, maybe.
Less aggressive.
Yeah, he can be. I mean, you cannot call any football player not soft because what they're doing is basically the toughest thing. So that was a total Freudian slip. But I think Kevin King maybe lacks I don't know what the word is, but a little bit more dog maybe you would prefer from Kevin King. And J.C. Horn, I feel like brings more than a little bit of dog. He brings a lot of it.
And then here's the last thing. When he's tackling, will he do what Kevin King does and just throw his shoulder at the guy, like not even care for his body at all? Or does he go in hard for tackles?
A little bit here and there. I mean, all corners throw their shoulder in there, right? But I think he's a good, solid tackler.
Okay. Yeah, that was pretty specific, but I don't know. Kevin King's known for the shoulder at the knee tackle. That's his favorite.
So Raymond's asking, I think Trent Williams was the best signing of the free agency. Draft is open now. Yeah, I 100% agree. I thought it was the best signing of the free agency. When you're signing a first ballot Hall of Famer in free agency, I think it's always a good free agency, especially one that seems to still have at least 3 or 4 years left in the tank.
Mm-hmm. Here's my question, though. Do you think he will be a first ballot Hall of Famer? I really don't.
I think he should be. But the question is with the media aspect of it, he's been an All-Pro one time in his career. He was a second-team All-Pro in 2015, which to me it just doesn't make sense to me because it's like, have you watched this guy play? Yeah. I would say, will he actually be? I don't know. Is his talent and play deserving of a first ballot Hall of Famer? Absolutely. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. Dude, because obviously, physicality wise and just athletic prowess, he's kind of top 3 his whole career. It's really a shame because yeah, I mean, getting in as an O lineman's not easy because unless you're racking up all pros and you're Zach Martin, where it's this dude could retire now,
right?
First ballot.
Big Q the same way, but I think also Tyron Smith and Zach Martin and all those guys, they benefited from playing for the Dallas Cowboys. When you play for the Dallas Cowboys, if you're a slightly above average player that Jerry Jones drafts, you will be a Pro Bowler, you will be All-Pro because you're constantly talked about and people are aware of you, which is a big problem in the NFL because of the control the media has, but it's just the truth.
Yeah. Interesting.
Is there any more questions that you see? If you see them, just pull them up. Guys, if you have any more questions, just put them in here. Anything, basketball, football, anything about us. When are we going to do a mock draft? The week before the draft.
Yeah.
We will do one mock draft. It'll be the week of the draft, and we'll do it then.
Yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
I did see Chris Sims' receiver rankings. I didn't agree with some of what he said. I agreed with some of what he said. I really love Diami Brown the same way he does. I think Diami Brown has a little bit of Brandon Ayuk to his game. Dare I say Brandon Ayuk? There is a little bit there. There's no way I think that Diami Brown is a top 3 receiver. I think he's I don't like him more than Tony. I think he's 5 or 6, but I love Diami Brown as well. I saw that he was super high on Jamar Chase. Like, I think it's a little misconception that I'll say I don't dislike Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase is a baller. I think he should be one of the first 20 players drafted in the draft. I think he's a top 20 pick. My thing is that I don't think he's a generational wide receiver prospect, and I don't think he's a guy that should go in the top 10. And so that's just how I feel about it. But yeah, I saw his receiver rankings, Blake. I don't know if you saw him, but I'll give you a little gist. He basically went Chase 1, Devonta Smith number 2, Diami Brown from North Carolina number 3, who's just a stud, but I don't think he's a third best receiver. Waddle 4, Tony 5, and Terrace Marshall 6. I definitely would have Waddle higher. I think Waddle is a little more explosive than he gave credit for, but overall, yeah, I mean, he's really good at what he does. I saw the signing. He's really good at what he does. But if I was to rank him, I'd probably go something of the order in terms of tiers of Smith, Waddle, Chase as the first tier. Diami Brown, Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, I'm surprised Bateman wasn't even in his top 6. I think Bateman.
He didn't like Bateman at all, but I like Terrace Marshall, Kadarius Toney. All those guys would be the second tier. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, like I haven't seen his rankings. I don't know. I'm pretty high. I think Bateman will be really good. Bateman just screams like a really good wide receiver number 2. Like that's what he just looks like to me.
Yeah, that's how I feel about him too. I don't look at Bateman as a guy that's going to be a superstar, but I don't think Bateman's going to bust.
No. He looks.
I think he's just going to be a good player.
He looks like he'll be a really good player.
Rondale Moore. I like Rondale Moore. I don't love Rondale Moore. I like him. I just don't want the Chiefs to get Rondale Moore because boy, he's electric. But I don't look at Rondale Moore. I think for Rondale Moore, he's the kind of guy that it's gonna have to make sense on where he goes and to what team he goes. Because if he doesn't go to a creative offensive coordinator, I think that his career will kind of just it'll be a little John Ross type, but John Ross like. And I don't think he's as good as John Ross coming out. But yeah, I think he has to go somewhere where every single thing he does can be utilized.
I'm with you on that. Like if he went to the Chiefs or the Saints or the Packers, someone, even the Niners, I doubt they'll get him, but if he goes to a team with a creative OC that puts him in spots where he's used he's not gonna be. I don't think he'll ever be a number 1 receiver just due to how he's built. 5'10". The dude's legs are massive though. He can break tackles insanely fast. But yeah, he doesn't look like he'll be a number 1 receiver just due to his athletic profile.
Yeah, he can't be used for a team like the way Seattle uses DK Metcalf. Just line up in one spot all game, or the way the Cardinals have been using DeAndre Hopkins with Cliff. Just line up left all game, and we're going to run 3 or 4 routes with you, and you're just going to have to keep beating their best corner with those 3 or 4 routes because you're that good. He can't be used like that. He has to be push passes, jet sweeps. He has to be put in motion. You have to throw him screens. You have to line him up in the backfield. You have to use him in the return game, and he can be electric doing that. But you have to have a coordinator who can use him like that.
He's got a little a more athletic, maybe not as good of a route runner, Randall Cobb to me. I don't know. He's probably more. He's a good amount more athletic though. I honestly think Rondale Moore.
I don't think he's Yeah, but I don't think he's got Cobb was a monster in terms of being able to make contested catches over
Yeah,
the middle and take
exactly.
hits. I don't think Rondale Moore can do that. But I see where you're coming from in terms of the ability to break tackles and the kind of similar body type, though Moore is shorter.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Do you see anything else? There's been some good questions. I just haven't.
This one's a good one because I know you have a strong thought on this, or at least on Debo.
We covered this one. Grant and I talked about this. I think I personally think it has something to do with his weight. But when Albright said it, he was relaying it, and he said he would get in trouble. This isn't a report; he's relaying it. So I just think it's too much in the speculation land where Blake and Vish Sports doesn't do this kind of speculation.
Yeah. One thing on this, I'm sure we'll do this after the draft. Like, we could do this, we could probably do it 5 different times during the year, probably more than that, but I feel like it gets redundant. We want to wait till, OTA start or sometime at the minimum after the draft when we know how teams look more than just the bare bones of their roster right now.
Right, so that we're not doing 17 different power rankings, and then we can say at the end of the year, hey, look, we did 17 different ones, and power ranking number 6 turned out to be pretty close, so we were right about it. That's not the point of doing it. We have to wait and see what kind of roster moves people still make, what kind of drafts they have, how full rosters look. But yeah, we'll definitely do something like this. And that's the same thing with the mock draft. Like, we're just going to wait until all the insiders really just give you information on which guys are going where and which teams are going where, and we'll form our own rankings, and we'll do it where I think what our idea is that we'll do a mock draft where we just take the players that we think should go rather than just speculating who teams should take. So we'll just guess like that, and we'll see what happens.
Agreed. And then real quick, so I think it was the Eagles, right? The Eagles signed Joe Flacco. He's not on the Niners. I was trolling you a little bit about it. What'd you think about this? Like, this was just weird, man. I don't know what they're doing.
I think this means that the Eagles aren't taking a quarterback at 6. I think that's what this means.
Yeah, hopefully not, you'd think, but are you happy he's on the Eagles and not the Niners? I feel like he's not the worst backup.
He's not the worst backup. I could care less if he was on the 49ers, though. It's pretty damn disappointing if your quarterback's going into a season or Garoppolo and Joe Flacco, like, especially after you had these expectations, like the way I did for a Matthew Stafford. They've been in the Deshaun Watson conversation. You think maybe they could move up, and then you're just running it back with Garoppolo and Joe Flacco as his backup. But honestly, he's not a bad backup. He's certainly not. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't hate Flacco. I think he looked pretty decent in a couple games last year. Like, he hung 30 on Bill and the Patriots with Adam Gase coaching him up. So I got to give him some respect. And you don't doubt this man when it comes to January, because this dude would go – he was probably the best quarterback against Brady besides, like, Peyton Manning. I honestly think this dude would go into Foxborough and play like he lived there. He really did.
I think he probably played Bill Belichick better than any other quarterback, honestly. And he even did it this year. For whatever reason, he has Bill Belichick's number. Did I rub it in twice when the 49ers beat the Packers twice? I mean, I've been rubbing it in for years. The 49ers have had the Packers numbers for years. I mean, we had a bet during the 2018 game, the game that CJ Beathard played, and he threw an interception to Kevin King to end the game, where it was cover 0. He had Marquise Goodwin for a touchdown, and he underthrew the hell out of the ball. We had a bet on that game where the Niners covered the spread. Blake has to buy me dinner. And the nice thing about it is that the Niners did cover the spread because they just own the Packers. They just own them.
I don't know about all that. Maybe a couple years ago, but it's all good. And then I did want to get to this one real quick, Vish. I know you've talked about Kadarius Toney. I've talked about a couple guys, nothing too much in depth for the draft. Is there any guys that we haven't discussed that you like a lot that are maybe not getting as much hype as they should be?
This
Or
is
do you
a hard
need to
one.
scout more into it?
I like Elijah Moore from Ole Miss. I think he's a
Okay.
really good wide receiver. I think he's going to be a good player. I don't think he's going to be a star or anything, but I think he's really solid as a receiver. Michael Carter is a guy we've discussed. I think Michael Carter is going to be a superstar,
Yeah.
especially if he gets in a Shanahan offense. I like the other running back a lot, Javonte Williams from UNC. I think he's going to go in the first 2 rounds in the draft, but I don't think he's been discussed. He is a monster.
Yeah.
He runs through people. He is physical as hell. He's a baller. I like him a lot. I think Grant's guy, Kellen Mond, could surprise people. I think the thing with quarterbacks is his is so situation based, and I think if he gets into the right situation, he could be a solid player and be a starting quarterback, but he could also be not that. So, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
Those are just off the top of my head.
Yeah. I was going to ask about one guy. I don't know if you've seen him play. I don't know if I've made a decision. Zaven Collins. He's the linebacker.
He's good.
Okay. Yeah. It's interesting. I think the linebackers in this draft, I know you're not a big fan of Parsons, but I think that like the top 3 are Parsons, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who that's my guy. I want the Packers to get him. If they got to trade
Notre
up,
Dame guy?
Yes.
He is a stud.
He's gonna be
Notre Dame guy is a stud. He is very good. Yeah.
It's so hard. I'm pretty sure he was a safety or a D-back, and he converted to linebacker.
Yeah. So he's your modern, undersized, off-ball linebacker with speed and violence.
He's like, I mean,
he goes 240, right? 240.
I don't know his weight, but dude, he looks pretty big to me. Like he's definitely not like the biggest dude. Don't get me wrong, but like when you think of an under guys, like do you remember Deion Buchanan on Cardinals? Like he's not like that.
Yeah.
He's not like.
I mean, he's listed at 216. So Deion Buchanan, I think, played at 225. Quan Alexander he's small. He played at 228. Reuben Foster, when he came out, played at 228.
Dude,
it doesn't matter because he's built and he can take on guys in front of him and he plays physical. I like him a lot. He's a good one. I think this linebacker, I don't think any of these linebackers are worth the top 15 pick, but I think there's gonna be like 4 that go within like between like 20 and 50, and I think all of them can be really good. Jabril Cox is from LSU is another one. But I don't think Devonta Smith's weight's going to be a problem. Do you?
I am a bit worried. We just haven't seen a guy who's like, how much does he weigh? Like 170?
Yeah.
Maybe less. Like we really just haven't seen a guy. Like I guess we have seen a couple dudes, but like they weren't first round picks. Like I forget the guy's name. He was the Cardinals receiver. He weighed like 150 pounds. I forget his name. But
are you thinking the returner Trenton Holiday?
Well, that dude's really small, but not him. I forget his name. But we just haven't seen like an insanely good guy play at this weight. I guess that's my only concern. And what if he does just get cracked by like a 240-pound linebacker across the middle? Like, the reason I don't think it matters at all is because I don't think it restricts his playing ability. We have not seen Devonta Smith have any issues against anybody because of his weight. I think at this point it's just a semantic. Like, if Devonta Smith was getting pushed around by bigger corners, if Devonta Smith was lacking physicality with his play and all of that, then yeah, this is 100% a problem. But I don't think Devonta Smith has that problem. Frankly, I think Devonta Smith plays physically better than Jerry Jeudy did last year. I think he's more physical, has more contact courage. So for that reason, I get it, because 170, that's a number that slaps you in the face. And you don't think star football players are going to be 170 pounds, but for that reason, it's okay. And then we'll just hit this because my bad. Go ahead. No, I was going to say I still like him a lot. That's the only thing that's holding me back from thinking like he will be the best dude in this class. Because, I mean, you watch him in college, and it's not like the dudes are like 180. Like, the linebackers are not 190 pounds. Like, they're still big dudes, but I don't know, man. Like, if he's coming across the middle and, like, a safety's coming downhill and just cracks him, I would be worried, but he's still going to be really good.
Fair enough. The way I see it is that I think if you can take a hit, you can take a hit, and he's tough. He takes hits.
Yeah.
Hanif has just been going crazy with this question, so I'll just answer in one word. I could care less if he skips his pro day. Like, I don't think that him running around in shorts means anything. I think that 40 times this year, I haven't seen a guy run slower than 4.5. Everybody seems to be blazing their 40s. So I could care less about the 40s. And plus, you have GPS tracking anyway, so teams can track miles per hour, which will give them play speed, which gives a much more indication of their actual speed than the 40.
I'm with you. But I did want to comment, I think maybe quarterback's like the most important, and even then, I don't know how much that matters. Because like for quarterbacks, they say, I want you to throw this route or this route. But like, I feel like receivers, route running wise and catching, like, it's a lot easier to see. Like, you can tell everything on tape, and you could say the same for quarterback. But I guess if there's more specific stuff you wanted them to do, like, that's where it would come into play.
Right. And with quarterbacks, there's a benefit to just seeing a guy throw live, because you can see how hard he throws, how pure a thrower he is, how the ball spins, all of that. I don't think there's anything like that with receivers. We'll take a couple more questions, guys, and then we're nearing the end. Thank you so much for staying with us. Jamal said, excuse me, Jamal, I'm just slipping on words constantly today, but Jamal says, I'm worried about him in press coverage. The thing for me with this is that I think he's beaten press all 4 years he was in the SEC. I think he's so quick with his first step. He's so explosive off the ball, and he's so refined with his releases. I don't see a problem where his game is so polished. Like, I look at Devonta Smith as Robert Woods 2.0 with a little more explosiveness. And I don't think Robert Woods has a problem with press coverage. I don't think Devonta Smith has had one, and I don't think he will have one with press.
Definitely. Yeah, no. Like, the dude tore it up. Like, the only thing you can say against him is, like, weight. That's really the only thing you can, like, knock him for. And maybe height to some extent, but even then, like, yeah, he looks like he'll be good.
Right. Who is the better athlete between you two? I mean, it depends on the sport. I think Blake has me in basketball for sure. I'm not very good. Blake is quite good at basketball. But yeah, I mean, Jacob also followed up by saying Blake looks like a tennis guy. Blake did play tennis, so that's kind of funny. I did do track in middle school, but I was a soccer guy my whole life. I played soccer. I swam a little bit when I was little, but soccer was my primary sport. But yeah, between the two of us, who's the better athlete? I think I'm just gonna come out and say that I got the edge here. Besides basketball, this kid's got no chance against me.
We'll have to do an IRL video for basketball this summer, and maybe some football. We show off our arms, maybe run some routes or something. So that'd be.
Well, if we show off our arms in like a pro day, like my arm strength, like it's bad. My arm strength is bad. I just can't throw a football very far. I just can't do it. So in terms of basketball, I suck at basketball, so that's not really an option. Though I do shut down Blake, and I do knock down a lot of shots in his face. So I feel like that's just more my will kicking in. No, I'm just kidding. I'm messing with you, but nah, Blake is much better than me at basketball. And Jamal, you asked a lot of great questions. That's why we answered them, and we of course want to have you come on. And we'll do a cone phone type thing soon, so all of you guys can join us, because I know there's a lot of people that have come watched us for a long time, and we really appreciate all your support. Mike, thank you so much. 2,600 subscribers. It doesn't happen without all of you guys supporting us. We really appreciate it. And as always, guys, please like, share everything with our channel if you like it. If you ever have any feedback for the two of us, just say it. We don't look at it as you're being mean to us. It's something that we'll definitely look into and try and improve, because that's what this is about. Do you see any? Yeah, I think we've reached.
We did have a couple. We had a video on this, so we do a couple videos. We have a ton of Niners videos from our last stream with Jason Aponte. So do check that out if you haven't already. But we have some Alex Mack, Trent Williams. We are going to stream later in the week too. I believe tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night we got a big guest.
Yes.
Stay tuned. Keep an eye on my Twitter because we got a nice guest coming on. He's a guy who knows a lot about Niners football. All of you guys know him. He'll be coming on tomorrow. I'm going to keep it as a surprise for now, but we got a good guest. And so hope you guys can tune in tomorrow. Again, this was super chill. It was nice to just be on here for an hour and have all you guys ask us these great questions and just talk about football. Thank you so much for joining us. We will answer this question next time. Next time we do a Q&A. Newman, just remember this question and just ask it to us. We got you. Thank you so much for joining. Please like, share, all the usual stuff. Again, we appreciate all of your support. If you ever have any feedback for us, email us, put it in the comment section. Thank you.